Hello and welcome to the vlog. Today I'm at the IWA, the Inland Waterways Association Festival of Water 2016. It's being held at Pelsall near Birmingham, which for my overseas viewers is somewhere in the middle of England. This is a 3-day bank holiday spectacular event with hordes of boats. And when I say hordes, I really do mean a lot of boats. This is the walk I took from one end of the line to the other, speeded up by 12 times. In reality, it took about 9 minutes, and that was at a brisk pace too. So many boats had come to Pelsall for the weekend that they were moored 2 or even 3 abreast in some places. Though the weather had been a washout on Saturday and only mildly sunny on Sunday, the Monday was a treat and everyone seemed in very good spirits. A quick view of the trading boats there, I'll be back to those in a moment. And those are some classic working boats, again more in a minute. Up past the organisers' boats, which are on the less desirable moorings I'm told, and we come to the far end of the line. One nice touch was each visiting boat bearing a plaque saying how far and how many locks they'd come through to get here. All types of boats were on show. There were cruiser sterns, there were trad sterns, there were semi-trads. You saw long pointy bows, you saw short stubby bows, and you saw bows so stubby they were barely there at all. There were boats that were very, very long, there were boats that were very, very short. This one's absolutely tiny, just 23 feet long with a fiberglass hull. It was made by Wilderness Boats and is designed to be trailable behind a car to different canals and rivers. Power comes from a 15 horsepower outboard and there's a touch of the 21st century with solar panels on top. Here's another interesting boat, about 62 foot or so, but look, a steering position in the middle and a back cabin. The controls are all standard except that instead of a tiller you've got a wheel, and then behind you that cabin with its own hatch and soon apparently a sunroof where that bolted square of metal is. I really like this boat, quite fancy one like that myself. At the other end of the line, a certain shallowness was evident in the edges of the canal with perhaps only a foot of water. This led to all manner of highly engineered mooring solutions, the gangplank in use being a relatively uncommon sight, at least on the canals I've travelled so far. This being a narrowboat festival, it was no surprise that several Rosie and Jims made an appearance. They're characters from a children's TV show set on a narrowboat, if you don't know them. For boats that actually wanted to move, things could get a little cramped, especially where the reeds intruded. But spare a thought for those who wanted to turn around at the winding hole. Turning sometimes being tricky at the best of times, but when you've got boats moored all along the back end, and, far worse, loads of people watching you and even filming, then it can't be a pleasant experience. This turn, though, executed flawlessly. This wasn't just a day for humans. Plenty of pets too, some taking it easy in the hot sun, others making their own amusement. This chap repeatedly dropping his ball into the water down the side of the boats, then looking at it and us, frustrated that he now didn't have it. Various frantic attempts to retrieve the soggy ball followed, largely to no avail, until ultimately there was only one way to get it. The ball then having been retrieved, a quick shake surprised any passing onlookers, and the ball headed straight back towards the water. Meanwhile, some owners had an ingenious way of carrying their show programme. I met the man who's in charge of the event, and he explained what this free festival of water is all about.
We are trying to bring a lot of boats in a very short space of time to a relatively underused stretch of canal, which is what the Northern Birmingham Canal Navigations is, to generate traffic, to generate interest, and also to generate interest in restorations that are going on as we speak in this area, just generally to improve the kind of level of knowledge and interest in the canals in the local community. Last year we were in Northampton in Beckett's Park, which is quite close to the centre of Northampton. Next year we will be at Ilkeston in Derbyshire. After that we're not quite sure. We do go somewhere different every year, and we try to keep finding interesting canals to visit or rivers, and to have as much variety in area as possible so that everyone gets a chance to attend.
In one corner of the canal, where there was a convenient short arm, classic working boats were gathered with their lovely old engines representing the history of the canals that are now so much about leisure. And we largely have the IWA to thank for the modern canal network.
Back in the late 1940s, early 1950s, when the government, as was, and British Waterways as it was then, were really quite keen on closing canals as quickly and economically as possible, the founders of the IWA organised lots of political activity and a lot of rallies where boats got to impossible places in large numbers to generate interest, which is what we're trying to continue to do now, and to stop the government from this process of destroying a huge national asset. Most of the canals that are here now wouldn't be here if the IWA hadn't been so stroppy and difficult in the 40s and 50s. We're not stroppy and difficult now, we're really cuddly, but we're still in existence and we're still working very hard to keep the waterways in business and to restore new ones.
Speaking of which, these guys are part of the IWA and very much at the coalface, as it were, of restoration. A digger was on hand to get kids interested because remaking canals can take generations.
There is a huge amount of work that goes into it, and some of these projects have been going on for many years. And it's just down to the dedication of the volunteers to keep that motivation up to see it through to the end, really. There are certainly costs involved. Like I say, we work very, very closely with all the local canal trust societies, so they are also involved in a lot of the fundraising. So some of them are perhaps Heritage Lottery funded, and some of them are, just generous donations from our members or other members of society, people like that.
Apart from all the boats lining the canal along the edge of the field, there were several trade stands and marquees featuring both canal and non-canal stuff for sale. And by now, with the sun firmly shining and boats topping up their solar charge, plenty of people had descended on Pelsall North Common. As is traditional at these events, traders were also operating out of boats, selling cheese, chutneys, duck food and doorknobs, and that was all just from one boat. The delightfully diminutive jam butty held an array of preserves, with many opened for a quick taste. Do any of these take your fancy? For everyday refreshments, there was the usual array of stalls you get at these events, all rather overpriced in my opinion. Am I the only person who objects to paying £2.60 for a cup of tea? Perhaps I should have taken my mind off it by learning to hula hoop. I didn't, because I'd have made a right tit of myself. Other entertainment on offer included this. Finally, my award for best boat name at the show has to go to Felonious Mongoose. Congratulations. So that was the IWA Festival of Water. A great event, but with one tiny sting. I wasn't recognised and stopped by anyone. Disappointing for my ego. And on that bombshell, I'll say goodbye. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.
Sunshine that never seems to come my way. Rolling round the world, every little milestone seems to look at me and say, bye-bye rainy days, bye-bye snow. Got no time to waste, I must go. Rolling round the world, just looking for the sunshine that never seems to come my way. Have a go, lads, come on.